Hello, readers. I'm talking to you today. This is a plea from an independent author. Now, not specifically for myself, though I will lump myself into this group of people that you can help as a reader. And it doesn't really take a lot. So I just wanted to throw out a few ideas of how you can help an independent author like myself. But if you happen to run across an indie author in the wild, if you're at an event, if you're at a bookstore like Barnes and Noble, and you see an indie author, please go over and say hello. It doesn't take much. All you have to do is say, "Hi, how are you doing? What have you written?" And just chat with them a little bit. So you don't necessarily have to buy the book, but chatting with an author during an event, which events can be very stressful for authors because a lot of us are introverts and we get nervous being out in public trying to promote the work that we're doing. It's always difficult to promote yourself unless you have a very strong self confidence that most of us don't. So, if you happen to be out in public, you see an author smiles at you and says hello, please say hello back and at least stop to chat with them for a minute. Don't just walk by because it can be painful watching streams of people pass by at these types of events. As I've mentioned in previous videos, JT and I have done a few book signings, specifically a couple that we did at Barnes and Noble. We really appreciated Barnes and Noble, our local Reno, Nevada branch, that the managers of the store were wonderful and very helpful. And we did chat with a few people, but most people walked into the store and they didn't really notice us. Now, I don't know if that was purposely not noticing us because they felt too uncomfortable to come over and chat, or if they just really didn't honestly see us as they were coming in the door. Because when an author does an event, unless they're a well-known author, really the only sign that they're doing an event is maybe they have a little table by a customer service desk or something, usually pretty close to the front door. So as you're walking in and you make that first glance around the bookstore, please, if you see an author sitting there, make a beeline. You don't have to stay long, but just seeing you walk in the door and walk to the table is huge for the author. Believe me, that will make their day, even if you don't buy a copy of their book. Now, while you're chatting with this author out in the wild, do take a moment to look at what they have available. Ask them about it. Ask about the writing process. If it's not the kind of thing that you'd like to read, say, hey, I have a friend who might be interested in this. And then follow up by talking to your friend and saying, hey, I ran across this author. You might like to check them out because we understand that not everybody is going to like everything that we write, and that's fine. We all have different tastes. But if you tell an author that you may recommend that another friend check out the book who might be more interested, that in itself is a lot. And by following through on that, you're helping the author market their work because word of mouth is the best way for us to become more well known. And especially with local authors, we feel that if it's possible to get a really supportive community to of readers, I should say, to at least talk about the books that are being written in our local areas, that can start the process of making an author more well known. Because if an author can't sell in their local community, where are they going to sell? Getting the word out widely across social media is very hard because there are so many authors writing so many great works out there that it is a challenge. No matter how much we try marketing, how many social media platforms we're on, no matter what kinds of wacky things we try, it is very hard to get attention. So the best way to start building attention is locally. And that's what JT and I have been doing. We've been not only collaborating with local authors to promote each other, but we're talking to people in our local area. JT goes to Comma Coffee several days a week now, and he's starting to become known by the people there. They know he writes books because he sits there to write them. And that is a way for us to become better known, at least in our communities. So as a reader, you can help by like if excuse me, my brain is firing too quickly this morning. If you see somebody like JT out in public and they look like they're working, JT actually has a little sign that I gave him that talks about writing and revising and all of that. So if you see somebody who looks like they're writing a book and it looks like they're approachable, go chat with them, because it doesn't necessarily have to be at an event. If you happen to see an author out working in the wild and you strike up a conversation with them, that can be really helpful. And you might end up becoming part of that author's work if something in the conversation strikes their interest, or if you might have your name thrown in there. You never know what could happen. So don't be afraid to talk to authors in the wild, whether they're promoting themselves or not. Obviously, you don't want to just approach random strangers. But if you see someone repeatedly working and it looks as though they may be working on a book, then I would recommend just saying hi. Hey, how's it going today? And start a conversation with them, because if they are an author, they will most likely let you know. And it's also nice to just connect with your local community. If you just say hi to somebody and they're not an author, that's not a horrible way to spend your day either. Then another way to promote your local authors is to go to your library and find out if their books are available. Now, many authors, if they use a service like Draft to Digital, are able to make their books available through Hoopla and Overdrive, which are the ebooks that can be checked out from the libraries. So if you go to your local library and say, hey, I ran into this author and I was wondering if you have their book, the library will then become aware of the author and the book. They can look into it. If it's not available, then, maybe it's something, if you're chatting with the author, that you can recommend to them, that maybe they're not aware that they can do that. But by talking to your local library, it makes them more aware of the local authors in the community. And a lot of libraries do like to emphasize local writers. They may have a section specifically for their local authors. So please go and ask your library. It doesn't hurt anything, and it could make an author's day, because while they're not you're not buying a book from the author directly, the library does purchase a license for the ebook or purchases the book itself if that is available. And that is a small help to the author's financial situation, because it's very expensive being an author. Now, you can also go talk to your local independent bookstore and find out if they have your author's book available. If they don't, they can also look into purchasing it and maybe carrying a copy or two, which the local author would be very grateful for. And you can also mention to your local author, if you happen to run into them, your favorite bookstore, and suggest that maybe they go talk to that bookstore to see about doing an event. So it can go both ways, that you're helping the author by making them known to the independent bookstore, but you can also help the independent bookstore by making them known to the author. But most of all, tell people about the local authors you meet. If you are, you know, trying to start up a conversation with a friend and you're not quite sure what to talk about, books are never a terrible subject, because most people like to read. And, everybody reads widely, I think. They may not personally read widely, but people in general have a wide variety of interests. So if you're chatting with your friends, or if you're chatting with someone in line, just mention, oh, hey, I just read this great book by this local author. They live in the community and they're really cool people. And that can help spread the word of mouth. So it's always good to talk to other people. And it's really, really helpful to your local authors. Now, if you happen to come across an author on social media that doesn't live in your area, but who is a very small author, try interacting with them online, because most of them do look at the responses to their posts. Many of us don't get a lot of responses to our posts, so we're happy to engage with you online as well, because we're not only getting to know you, but the interactions with the post help boost the post's visibility a little bit. So it is always good to interact with authors both in person and online. And I know a lot of us are nervous about talking to people we don't know, but honestly, I have made what I consider a lot of not good friends, but at least friendly acquaintances through book events and through online interactions, because I love talking to people who love books. As an author, as a reader, And I think most authors feel the same way. So I highly encourage you to talk to your local authors, talk to your friends about your local authors, talk to your local libraries, talk to your local independent bookstores. I know there's a lot of talk involved here, but talking really doesn't cost you anything financially. If you can buy a copy of a book, we really appreciate it. Believe me, we appreciate it probably more than you know. But if you can't, talking about it is the next best thing, because the more you talk about it, the more likely it is that someone else might be able to buy a copy of the book. Maybe someone who has a little money, maybe they got a gift card for the holidays and they decided they wanted to try out a new author. That's awesome. It's just these little things that really help build an author's visibility and help keep them encouraged enough to continue doing what they do. Because the author might not be your favorite author, but they could be someone else's. And wouldn't it feel nice if you were on the ground floor of helping your local independent author become better known? Could you imagine, let's say you were Stephen King's next door neighbor back when he was first starting out and before he became Stephen King, and you were one of the people who helped encourage him. You would have bragging rights to say, hey, I knew Stephen King way back when. And if you interacted with him enough, you might even become more of a friend of his. And, you could bask in the reflected glory of, hey, this is cool. Steve's my buddy over here. And you never know where the next Stephen King might be hiding out, or Nora Roberts, or any of the popular modern authors. I know my reading is a few decades old, at least my reading preferences. So I'm sure there are a lot more well-known modern authors that I haven't yet checked out because I've been busy writing books. But I just wanted to appeal to you, dear readers, to definitely try to support your local authors as much as possible. Like I said, if you come across an author online who's not local to you, but who seems to be starting out and is struggling to gain attention, please interact with them. We really appreciate it. It's it really doesn't cost you much to type, hello, I hope you're having a great day. I'll look at your books. Even if you never do look at their books, it's nice. It's just a nice thing to say. And if you check out the books, you might actually find your new favorite read. You never know. So that's my appeal to you today, dear readers. I hope you have stopped to actually watch this video. I really appreciate it if you did. If you are a reader and you are interested in the life of a writer, I hope you'll hang out here because JT and I, my husband, JT Hume, who is also an author, we are working hard to try to promote our work. We have the 18th book for our little book company coming out this coming Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. It's called Finding Salvation. It is a prequel novella trilogy compilation. So it's 3 novellas in one book that it's science fiction, and Finding Salvation is the prequel to JT's Serving Salvation trilogy, which is a 3 novel series. He does have another book in the same universe that will probably be coming out sometime later this year. So we have been releasing a lot of books. Our little book company is called Two More Books LLC, and I'll put the links down below for our websites at carsonhume.com and twomorebooks.com. We not only write books, but we try to help promote our fellow authors by a couple of podcasts now. We do the CC and JT Amateur Hour every Sunday, and we also have the Nevada Author Network, where we interview local Nevada authors who are members of the Sierra Arts Foundation and the Sierra Arts literary community. So we are really trying to help raise the visibility of the Nevada authors in our area to people who may be outside of our area. So if you are a reader and you're interested in books by Nevadans about Nevada in many cases, definitely check out our podcasts, check out our books. And we do write a lot that have been set in Nevada. Obviously not the science fiction book, but the other books, many of them are set in Nevada. So if you're interested in the West, Western history, Western lifestyle, if you're a fan of shows like Bonanza or Yellowstone or Longmire or things like that, um, we hope you'll check out our books because they can be a lot of fun. We do have kind of Old West feel to them. So, thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today. I really hope that you do check out your local authors, that you chat with them. Just say hello, if nothing else, because that'll honestly, it will make their day. In the meantime, I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. Take care.